Okay, so I'm just going to start with my list of questions. I have questions, and then I put on my Instagram. This is what I told people on my Instagram. I told them my parents have been married for, I think, 45 years. How long?
It'll be 45 when we're in Hawaii.
That's what I thought. Okay, so 45 years. You have 6 kids. I have 5 siblings. And one of the other things I mentioned was that you guys have had like a bunch of different types of like jobs, or even like done like your own business at one point, I remember. And moved and just gone through a lot. So I asked the people on my Instagram what they wanted to know about your experiences. Okay. So how old are you each?
66.
And I will be 68 in November.
Nice. Oh, I should mention your names too. So my mom is Lori, and Jeff is my dad. Lori and Jeff. And 66 and almost 68.
Right.
And Mom, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and that's where we've always lived, except for 1 year after he graduated. We lived in Montana for a year in Billings, Montana.
Yep. That was before I was born.
That was before you were born.
And where did you grow up, Dad?
Salt Lake City also. Wrong side of the tracks in Salt Lake.
Rough. The rough neighborhoods in the 60s.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that rough. It was a great place to grow up. Post World War II, boomtown neighborhood. My dad met my mother. My dad's from Arkansas, and met my mother in Utah, and he was stationed at an old camp called Camp Kearns, which was an Army Air Corps base during World War II, and they got together and got married. Moved back to Arkansas. Might have been born in Arkansas, but my dad got back there and decided to come back to Utah, just because he got back there and spent 1 week working, looking at the north end of a southbound mule. They were farmers, and plowing the fields. Yeah. He said he didn't want to spend the rest of his life looking at the north end of a southbound mule. And came back and became a bricklayer, and I grew up in a very blue-collar family in Salt Lake.
So, but it's really cool that your dad was a bricklayer, because since I can remember, my whole life, we've had the cabin that he built himself that we still go to in the mountains in Utah, and it's awesome. It's not like the coolest from the outside looking cabin, right? Because he just made it with it. What is it?
Cinder block.
But it's so
Just
awesome.
block.
The inside of it's quaint and warm and cozy, and
Very homey.
yeah, it's not like people say they're going to their cabin and it's like a mansion in the mountains, but ours is like an actual legit.
It is a cabin.
Yeah.
It's got 1 bedroom, a sleeping loft, a kitchen, and a little cellar, a living room and a cellar, and that's about it. But it's got beautiful views, and
Yeah, it's
they
really
paid
nice.
$900 for the 5-acre lot that we're on right now, back in about 1962.
Dang.
And it's just become a family treasure.
So what I know about you guys when you were younger, before you were married, was my mom was a state champion baton twirler,
That is true.
and still to this day can twirl a mean baton. She can throw it over her head and twirl around and catch it. Behind your back? Can you still do it behind your back?
I don't know about behind my back anymore. Yeah.
And then Dad was in some of the musicals, and you were a high school cheerleader.
I was.
I think.
Yeah, back in those days in Utah, at least, and it was a lot of fun. There were some really good-looking girls on our cheerleading squad, and
That's why you wanted to be a cheerleader.
that's why I wanted to be a cheerleader.
I think that's why
So
most guys want to be a
I could be
cheerleader.
around. My partner was really foxy.
Foxy.
But anyway, that's a word that used to mean
You're dating yourself.
good-looking.
We know what it means.
But no, it was a lot of fun. That way, when the guys were out there getting beat up and dirty on the football field, I was carrying a beautiful girl on my shoulders, as part of my cheerleading routine. So
I mean, we had, when I was in high school and I was a cheerleader, I'm pretty sure that's the only reason any of the boys were there. They wanted to do it. So
yeah.
Foxy. Now, Mom, you let me read your diaries from when you were like in high school. Do you remember that?
I do.
Did you? Okay.
Mhm.
Maybe
Was
because
that
I was
s-
like trying to remember if I just found them and read them on my own or if you actually gave them to me.
I
But you
remember
definitely gave them to me.
letting you read them.
I'm pretty sure you gave them to me.
Where do you keep them? I'd like to read them.
And I remember, or at least maybe you've told me that there was a couple other people before Dad, at least one other person before Dad that asked you to marry them. Am I remembering this correctly?
One
That was what?
That asked her to marry him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was from Calgary,
Canadian.
Canadian. He was Canadian. He asked me to marry him after 3 months, and I said
How old were you?
I was probably 19,
Yeah, and you said no?
and I said no because that was really scary to think about moving that far away.
Oh, so he wanted you to move to
Yeah,
Calgary.
he wanted me. His parents owned vineyards,
I mean, that sounds nice, but
so nice and cold.
yeah, do they have vineyards? How do they have vineyards in the snow?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's very nice.
It's
I don't know if you
pretty
know anything about
temperate there.
Canada. The weather in the spring and the summer and the fall, they get a lot of sunshine because it's so far north. And they actually have very warm weather during that time of year.
Okay, so no to that, but it was only one person because for some reason in my mind it was multiple people that asked you.
No, not only one that asked me to marry him, multiple boyfriends. But
You used to go get Cokes.
a lot, yeah.
There's a lot of times in the diary where she would talk about going to get a Coke with someone, and I didn't know if that was maybe code for something or if it was literally like a thing to just go get a Coke.
No, it was literally after school, you go to McDonald's and get a Coke, a drink,
Like a Coca-Cola Classic.
in a cup and a straw. Yeah.
Nice. That's
Just
cute.
a
Back in
Coke.
the days when they
No.
still had straws,
Yeah.
before they became
Right.
not politically correct.
No
Anyway.
code, just a Coke.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
And you guys, how did you guys meet each other?
Oh boy. You want my version or his?
Both. Definitely both, but move the microphone when one person's
Okay.
doing it.
Should I
Who's gonna go
start?
first?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the right version.
Miranda mentioned our cabin. We have a cabin up in the mountains, and I had a cousin who was about a year and a half younger than me. And my dad used to make me, because we were still building the cabin, he'd make me work till like noon or so, helping him with the cabin. And then I had just, I was just coming out of my junior year or my senior year of high school, just graduated from high school. And there's a resort called the Homestead Resort that's down, about 20 miles from where our cabin is, in a little community called Midway next to Heber, which is a very high alpine community. And they had a place there called the Homestead where we used to go, and they had a swimming pool where you could go swim. And we used to go there, my cousin and I, and look for girls, just to see what kind of girls there might be hanging around there and show off our tan, virile bodies, And so we got there, and lo and behold, there was this really cute girl that
She
had
twirling her baton?
no, she
Not
was
that point.
she was twirling my heart. No,
Oh, stop.
no. She was built very much like Miranda is now, except for the bumps.
And the muscles.
Which bumps are you talking about?
Muscles.
Yeah.
the contoured nature of your physique, but she was very, very slender, but very, just very nice, very
She had nice legs.
very nice legs, among the nicest I think I've ever seen in my life, even
Okay,
to
keep
this
going.
day. Okay, anyway,
Jeez.
she was sitting by another girl who was also kind of cute.
Who was it, Mom?
My friend Mary?
Okay.
No, it wasn't Mary. It was Wendy.
Wendy? It was Wendy, okay.
Yeah, it was Wendy Wood, I think, or might have been Shauna. Was it Shauna?
Shauna was
Shauna.
Okay, might have been Wendy. Anyway.
Okay.
Wendy Wood. Anyway, so we got our towels kind of close to where they were. There was a nice space on the grass there, and we got our towels, kind of close to where they were. And I kept looking over at her, kind of thinking, how can I start a conversation with this girl? And I noticed that she had a black high school ring that had a black stone in it. And I thought, now where would the black stone be? And I knew Ogden had black, that was their color. So I asked her, I said, oh, I noticed your high school ring. Did you go to Ogden High? And you said,
No, I went to Highland.
Rams.
Highland
"Ding."
Rams.
Boy, that's a lot
Yeah.
closer than Ogden from where I live. So I thought, I thought, wow, this could be pretty good. So we started talking. I actually have a photograph of the first day that we met.
Really?
Yeah, her friend took the photograph, and she was going to take a picture of us just kind of close together. And just before she took the picture, I grabbed Mom and started like it was
That
gonna,
picture that's hung on the fridge?
Yeah,
That's from the first day you met?
The first
I didn't
day
know
we
that.
met. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought that
So
was like it
anyway,
into it.
it's kind of a. I'd probably get arrested these days for assault, but.
Maybe.
I didn't look like I minded.
No,
No.
you had a smile on your face. That's always a good sign. So, anyway, so that's how we met, and we dated for. I'll let Mom take over from here.
Okay, so we started dating, and we dated pretty much nonstop, probably most nights for about 3 weeks.
Cause yeah,
We saw each other a lot.
you're Highland and where you lived in Salt Lake they're not far from each other.
No.
It's like
Oh, no.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I probably took 20 minutes to get to her house from where I
If
lived.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he took me on a date one night, and we were really liking each other, I could tell. Took me on a date and went, got home, kissed me goodnight at the door. And then that was it. I never heard from him or saw him again.
Of course.
And
Probably forgot.
In those days, girls didn't call and say, "Hey, where'd you go? What's going on? What did I do something wrong?" Or you. So that was it. And then I heard from my sorority sisters that he had. This was 6 months later. That he
6
had-
months?
Yeah, he had left to serve a mission for the LDS Church.
Oh yeah, failed to mention that on the date.
Yeah, failed to mention that. Never a phone call, never anything. And so then he did that, and then you should tell this part, about 2 months before you got home.
Yeah, I
So
had been.
when he was gone that the Calgary guy asked you to marry him
Yes,
then?
yeah.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
You got lucky.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I did. And in fact, I dodged a major bullet, I learned later. Because I was dating this girl when I was dating Lori, but the reason that I spent so much time with her at the time
That's right.
was that my girlfriend was on vacation.
Hold
the
on, you had
whole
a
summer
girlfriend while you were hanging out with Mom and going on dates?
in California.
She
was
out
in
of town.
California for like 2 months.
Listen, folks.
And so she got
I
back.
think that men are just that way now. It's always been that way.
Anyway, to make a long story short, she got back. We started dating again, and we were planning on getting married, me and this other girl.
She was going to wait.
She was going to wait for me on my mission. I spent 2 years in Australia, and when I got back finally, about 2 weeks before I got back, I got a Dear John letter where she had, was dating another guy but couldn't make up her mind. So I got home and things didn't work out, and I never did date her when I got the other girl. I won't mention her name, but when I got home. The first person I went out. In fact, I had my cousin Kelly.
How did you remember how to get a hold of her? Mom?
Well, okay, it's my turn now.
Go ahead.
So he'd only been home for like 3 days and knew it wasn't going to work out with this other girl. And so he came to my house. He knew where I lived.
You just came to
No,
you went to her
he
house?
just came to my house.
That might get you arrested these days.
Showed up at the door. Yeah, and I had just gotten home from a sorority meeting or something like that, and I opened the door, and he said, "Oh, hi," and they said, "Oh, you're not fat yet." That was the first thing
That
he
was a
said to
great
me,
line.
but
That's got to make a girl.
Oh, thank goodness.
that should have been a red flag right there, right?
Really.
So yeah, and so we started dating, and we didn't want to get too serious too fast, and so we tried to date other people, and that didn't work really very well, and so 18 months later we got engaged, and then
18 months later we were married.
Yes, about a year later we got engaged, a year or so, and then 3 months after that we got married. So
Nice. How old were you when you got married?
just barely 21.
And I was 22.
Nice. That's common not only back then but also super common in Utah.
In Utah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that wasn't anything.
No, that wasn't out of the ordinary then.
Okay. What year did you get married?
1974.
Nice.
September 12th, 1974. I've got to remember that date. There's 2 dates I always remember. One is her birthday,
June 12th.
June 12th, and the other one was September the 12th.
That sounds.
And I planned it that way, so it'd be easier for him to remember.
I make Julian. We have like 4 anniversaries that I
a
make him
lot.
celebrate. I make him celebrate the day we met, which was October 16th, the day we actually got married, which is February 13th, and then the day we had our wedding, which was August 16th. So he has to remember, or August 19th. He has to remember all of those.
They're the ones that are tattooed on his chest.
He has our actual wedding date and Knox's birthday.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot to remember.
I know. Keeps him on his toes.
I don't remember my kids' birthdays. That's why.
Do you know when my birthday is?
August.
I'm not happy.
I don't know. That's
Do
for
you know how
us.
old I am?
You are
You will be.
29.
Nice. Exactly. That's right. You heard it from my dad. That's how old I am.
That's right. And Daddy always knows,
Yeah,
right?
he knows.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So you got married in 1974. So you ended up with 6 kids. Now, when you were dating or before you got married, was this like did you guys decide that you were going to have this many kids, or did it just kind of happen, or did one of you want that many and the other one was not sure about it, or how did that end up?
We should have stopped at 3. She's number 4. No, just teasing. No, go ahead. I'll let you explain.
No, we both wanted a big family. There's 7.
7
His
kids in
family.
my family. And it was normal in those
That
days
was-
to have that
yeah.
many kids.
That was not a lot, and I only had 3. But my brothers were all like 4.5 years apart,
Mm-hmm.
and I always wanted to have my kids close together because I felt like we were never really
Yeah, it was
close.
it was almost like rare for your family was super small
Yeah,
for the
was-
back in Utah
yeah,
back then.
it was. Yeah, so no, we both knew we'd have 4 or 5 or 6, and most of our friends all had that.
Was
Right.
was it ever like when you were growing up or when you were around that age, was it ever like even a thought to not have kids at all? Did anybody just not have kids?
That was not even a consideration. I mean, it was. That's what families were. Was
Yeah.
having kids
No,
and
you
raising kids.
you got married and then you had a baby. That's
Or
what
did
you
did anybody just say, "Oh, I'm only going to have 2 kids"
Some.
No.
back then?
Not
many, but-
only if they couldn't have more.
Yeah, it was more like
Or
they
if
like
it
they
was
could
like a
try
health
it.
issue or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. How long after you got married did you have your first baby?
8 months. No, just teasing. No, it was
That's right, 18.
18. No, it was 18 months.
It's a good thing you came in here because you didn't want to come in.
Yeah,
story would be-
This would have been a whole different thing.
Yeah. No.
18
Yeah.
months.
18 months. We were we were married in September of 1974, and he was born in March of 76.
Yeah.
76.
My mother threatened me with my life if I got pregnant and didn't finish college, so I
Nice.
graduated from the University of Utah in June and got pregnant the same month.
So, did most of your friends also graduate from college, or was that still like
No,
pretty
that
cool
was-
for a girl to
I would say
graduate from school?
80% of our immediate friends, 80 to 90%, were college
That's
graduates.
a lot, yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So do you remember my oldest brother's name is Ryan? Do you remember him as a baby now?
Very
Yeah.
much so.
You probably remember him as a baby more than the rest of us.
The first one you remember, you remember.
So,
Yeah.
do you remember you as a mom with your first baby?
Yes.
How would you describe that situation?
Overwhelmed, tired.
Yeah. You didn't work at this time,
no,
did
I
you?
didn't work. No, I was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, that's good.
So, yeah.
What do you remember about having your first baby? Just a lot of crying?
I just remember not, just being totally overwhelmed, not knowing what to do, trying to be the best dad I could, but not knowing how to do that. Always being more than willing to pass him off to mom when there was a problem.
I think he probably changed maybe 5 diapers and
Of all the
of
kids?
all yeah.
Oh,
Well, it wasn't
No,
maybe 6 or 7.
Well, like
One per kid.
at least
What?
7. At least 7.
Yeah, no, that wasn't so much a dad thing to do
No.
then. It was just
Yeah.
that was a mom job.
So, and then Quinn, my next brother, he's not that much younger than Rye. How far separated are they?
They are 19 months.
Okay, so Rye's 10 months old, and then you got pregnant with Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have a plan for how you wanted them separated, or not really?
Well, we knew we wanted them close, and I got pregnant with Quinn really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan really quick too. So, yeah, we just decided 18 months to 2 years apart would be good. And that's kind of how they ended up, except for Court was the third brother's 2.5 years apart, and then the others are pretty much 2 years.
Were you trying for a while, and then it just took a little bit longer to get Court? Or
Yeah.
was it because it was so hard to go from just having one kid to having two that you waited a little bit longer?
No, it just took a little longer to get him, and it took the longest to get you.
I mean, good things come to those who wait.
That's right. So, you took the longest to get.
It's probably distracted. Okay,
Well,
so
you just weren't ready yet.
you had
Ready.
You had 3 boys.
Yep.
Ryan, Quinn, Court.
Mm-hmm.
And then at this point, were you like bummed out that you didn't have a girl yet? Or were you like, you didn't really care what all the genders ended up being? How were you about it?
We
actually?
knew that.
I know
I
your
mean,
answer.
that happens because my family, when I was growing up, I have 3 older sisters and then me. And so
Goes every other.
I knew that there was a good chance we would have a girl, and I really wanted to have a girl. And I wanted her to have beautiful green eyes like mine are. Because like my mother has green eyes, and that's where I get my
Nice.
green eyes, and that's where it comes through my mother to me, to you, to Knox.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, but no, I always wanted to have a girl, and I was really excited when you were born to have a little girl to snuggle.
Were you
No, I was beyond thrilled. Beyond
finally
thrilled.
another girl
Yeah.
in the house?
Yeah. A
What's-
little girl to dress and play with, and
What would you say, do you remember, because I was actually listening to a podcast about this morning about the differences between little boys and little girls.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that's a thing? Like, what were the
Yes.
major differences between me as like a baby or a toddler versus the 3 boys? Because that's all you had up till then.
just boys are just seem to be much more active and physical and big muscle things.
Aggressive.
Where little girls just could sit and play with dolls and do small motor things for a long time. And little girls seem to be able to entertain themselves better. You could.
But there was somewhat of an exception in our situation, in that Miranda had 3 older brothers
Yeah, so you were.
who were kind of her role models a little bit.
I wouldn't say role model so much as I thought they were dumb and I wanted to show that I could do anything they could do.
Yeah.
That's right. But they took advantage of that because,
Oh, they did.
because when you were a little bit older, about 4 or 5 years old, they dress you up in hockey gear and put you in the basement and take, just with a plastic puck, not the real heavy pucks, but would take shots on you on goal.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was definitely more like 7 years old when that happened,
Maybe.
but
Was it that
they
old?
used to take me to the skating rink and they would encourage me because no one would think that I was doing it on purpose. So they taught me how to make people fall by getting in their way, and I was just a little girl, and they would stand and watch and laugh, and then they would tell me who to go get, and I definitely would go and cut people off.
So that they
But they just thought I was a little kid that wasn't paying attention, but I was doing it on purpose.
I never heard that. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
And
at the skating rink.
she's been taking people's legs out from under them ever
The
since.
skating
Yeah,
rink.
I never
So,
knew that.
okay.
So then you had the girl. Now you've got 4.
Right.
So then what's the conversation to go on to keep having more?
At that point, we talked about adopting
Oh yeah, that's right.
a couple of kids from India
Or
somewhere,
someplace, yeah.
two girls or something. But then we decided that we would have one more, and if what was meant to be, and so then we had Clay. And then when he was born, I had a really strong feeling that he was my last son. So then we thought, well, let's go for one more. And sure enough, Whitney was born, and she's a girl. 5 years after Miranda. 5 years
So
younger.
how old was Rye, my oldest brother, when Whit was born?
11.
So you had 6 kids under the age of 11.
Yes.
and he's at work all day.
Yes.
So you've got like the newborn, I guess like a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old that aren't at school yet. But we used to go to like Mrs. Cheryl's preschool in
Preschool.
the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Starting at age 3. So I guess you just had the baby and the 2-year-old. How would we get to Miss Cheryl's preschool?
We'd walk down the street.
And you would just
Down
bring
the
the
street.
baby and the 2-year-old with us?
Right.
So the only thing that I can remember growing up, as far as like, okay, maybe you just have too many kids, was when Court got lost at Disneyland.
That was the only child. That was the only time we ever lost a child. The only time.
Did you take us to the grocery store with you?
Yes.
How many at a time?
Probably at least 2 or 3.
And then you just left the other older ones at home.
Yeah.
How does it work when you're trying to get, I was asking you this the other day, when you're trying to get 6 kids to go to bed, how does that, because I can barely get Knox to go to bed, and we both put him to bed.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, that's the beauty of having them so close in age, is they just play with each other and entertain each other, and you start with the youngest. And
Would you say realistically that, like, the boys, for example, you would put them to bed, but they were in there awake and playing with each other, but they just weren't allowed to come out?
probably, yeah, that's probably true.
Okay.
Lock them in the bedroom, and yep.
All right. Let's see what else I wrote down for. Okay, so I don't remember, but I know Dad had a pretty higher paying job when around the time that I was born and stuff, and you guys built this like dream home of yours in Murray that you designed yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And it was super cool house that we moved into when I was like 2 years old, right?
Yeah.
So that was before. Did we move in before Clay was born?
Yes.
Yes, I believe he was born after we moved there.
Like, but not long after, probably, huh?
No, I was pregnant when we moved in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we moved into this super cool house, and then we lived there till
10
I was
years.
12. So for like 10 years we
10
lived there.
years, yeah.
And it was like in a brand new subdivision.
Yep.
There was like nothing there, and then these really cool like custom homes all went in there, and we lived there. It was pretty fancy at the time, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
it
yeah,
was
very
very
fancy,
upper
very-
middle class.
Very.
And then I remember I was like 11-ish or 10. I was 10 when you decided to quit your job that you had that was paying you so much for us to live there. And the only thing I remember about it was that you didn't like your job because you didn't feel like you could be honest at your job. And so you just had enough and just kind of...
It wasn't really honest. It was just, I was in the investment business. I was an investment broker, financial planner, and had done really well for a lot of years. And the particular company that I worked for, and I won't mention any names, of course, but I just found out the longer I was in that industry, there were just too many hidden agendas with what we were selling at the time and why we sold certain products. We were given this big hype about why we needed to push this to our clients, et cetera. Then we found out later that we were selling their own inventory, stuff out of their own inventory so that they would, because they knew the markets or sensed the markets were going to be changing. So, it just was not a real good situation, at least for me philosophically, to stay in that kind of an environment, because I just didn't feel good about the way I was having to make a living by being not, I wouldn't say devious, but always not painting the full picture sometimes for people in order that I could make the sale and make the money that I was making. So decided to go into to a different industry. I left and another guy that I knew really well, we got together and started an import-export business. We were
I remember.
Importing things from Korea primarily. So I went over to Korea quite a bit, and we found things that we would import from Korea and sell in the United States, and that worked out pretty well until there was a situation where the company that we were buying from primarily, it was there were cards that were made, like greeting cards that were made from real flowers, pressed flowers. And they had a typhoon that hit their country, and there was a mudslide that came in and basically wiped out their factory and their place where they stored all their inventory, and basically put us out of business.
I remember the cards. I remember the house was always full of all those cards. And you guys would use them for like wedding invitations or like thank you cards and things
We'd
like
sell
that.
them all over the country. We had probably 500 or 600 retail outlets that would sell them, like gift shops and places. We'd ship them all over the country.
It's
and
too bad there wasn't Instagram back then or the internet. You would have had quite the business.
Yeah,
on Etsy.
That's true. We sold, like, a lot of people bought them for wedding invitations.
Yeah, I
where
remember.
They were just beautiful cards that were put together with vellum and embossed paper and things that was just really pretty. And it was a great business, but we just had that hiccup and things. We never could it back together because we could not. I even flew back over to Korea and tried to find another source of supply, but I couldn't. There just was no other source that could supply the type of material we were selling.
So I remember. So actually, I was going to ask Mom. So when you decided to leave the investment company, was this something you guys like talked about? How did you feel about him when he wanted to leave that place? Because we had the awesome house that you guys had built and everything, so that's probably kind of stressful.
A houseboat, yeah.
And we had a houseboat down in Lake Powell.
It was really stressful, and it didn't happen overnight. It was like over a year or so.
In my mind, for some reason, my story, I think the story that the siblings all told each other was that he just like got mad one day and quit.
No,
because we didn't know anything was going on, obviously.
No, well, we tried to probably keep it from you, pretty much, and because it wasn't your stress to worry about, but it was gradual, and it was really difficult. Yeah, really painful and not fun, but.
I don't remember. I think I wrote in my notes before we did this that I can't recall one time ever in my 36 years of life ever hearing you guys fight with each other. Not once.
Well, that's good.
That's because I was afraid she'd hit me over the head with a baton.
He had seen her baton skills. He was scared.
That's right.
So because a lot of the questions are about like how is that possible? That was I just oblivious to? Because I would have broken several windows with lacrosse balls if I was under that kind of stress.
Well, you handle stress differently. I tend to keep it all inside.
But he doesn't. He does the same thing I do.
Well, yeah, he would.
But I never heard you guys fighting with each other.
No,
not
we
once.
we never yelled and fought, and we never did that. We're just always more trying to.
No, we've had disagreements. It'd be not correct if I said we didn't have disagreements. And I'm probably way more domineering than Lori is, and so typically she would cave, to my whatever I was trying to promote that she was
just tired
with.
from taking care of the kids.
But at the same time, I think that we learned, and we still have issues. I mean, just on this trip, we've had some discussions, of things that might have been bothering one of us or the other. But at least we were able to talk it out usually, or it never got to the point where it got heated, or I can't ever remember having a yelling argument. That we've ever had.
They yelled at us.
Yeah.
But never at each other.
Did we yell at you?
I mean, he did.
Oh, Dad did. Yeah, and I avoid confrontation at any cost, so I'm one of those types of people.
I know.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's really something that, even though you guys were going through that stressful time, is like really cool, because at least from my perspective, I never heard you guys arguing about it at all.
Yeah.
So what do you remember? That just one day we said, okay, we're moving?
No, I definitely remember it before, because we still lived in the house for at least a year or two before we ended up moving away to the smaller house.
Right.
But I don't know who I got the story from that Dad just decided to quit, and that's why we had to move or whatever. I I remember the cards, but I don't remember that being like a bad or stressful thing. I just remember it was just something that you guys were doing. And then I remember the boys, not me so much because I was a little bit younger, but I definitely remember the boys complaining that they didn't get as much for Christmas like the next year. Because they were used to getting like snowboards and like all this stuff.
Yep.
Well, the thing that really prompted us needing to move is we got behind in our house payments. And, you know, we weren't at the point of foreclosure, but we were getting close. And so we had to put the house up for sale. That's why we ended up moving, is because we didn't want to move. We loved the house. Lori designed the house. You know, it was a wonderful house, wonderful neighborhood, wonderful neighbors. I mean, there was no reason for us to move that we would ever want to, but, you know, we got to the point where it was either sell it or lose it. And so we put it up for sale. We sold it for a good price. We were able to pay off our debts and also have a good down payment on the smaller house that we bought. And
we wanted to stay in Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I remember we were talking about the other day how I remember going to look at some of the other houses when you guys were looking for a new place.
Yeah. Because by that time, Ryan and Quinn were in high school. Court was in junior high.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I was in 6th grade when we moved.
Yeah, and in Murray, there's only one high school and 2 junior highs. So we really wanted to keep try to stay in Murray, which
just
we were
for
able to do.
benefit of your people, Murray's kind of like a small community right within metropolitan Salt Lake City. It's right in the middle of the city. It's not it's a suburb, but it's its own self-contained city. They have their own police department, their own fire department, their own school district. I mean, it's just like a small community within a very large city. And so it's different than many other suburban communities that just kind of meld in together because it's got its own identity, and it has forever. And we wanted to stay there because it's like living like a small town in a big city.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember, so the card business died because of the typhoon or the storms.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started looking for a new house, found the new house. I have a memory of Mom specifically, and maybe it's just because she's the only one that voiced it, being embarrassed that you guys had to move out of the fancy neighborhood.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
It was hard. It was.
I don't know if I overheard something or if you told me specifically.
It was a really, really painful, difficult time to go through that. To go, to not have hardly any money anymore, and to go Christmas shopping and try to use your credit card and it's declined. And
I think I was with you one time when that happened.
Yeah.
You got really upset.
Yeah.
At Mervin's.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it was very painful. I had a really hard time. And then the same year that we moved was the same year that my mom died. So that was just a hard year.
I remember, because I was in,
hard times. Yep.
But, just in retrospect, hard times, as hard as they are sometimes, it was a learning experience where we learned who we were. I had become very materialistic, when we lived in that house. And
the neighbors there were kind of, I remember Mom always saying she never felt like she fit in with the ladies there because they were kind of
uppity, No, that's true. But, sometimes you need to be taken down a peg or 2 or 3 or 4 to realize what's really important in life, and what's important is family and relationships, and not necessarily the things that money can buy, but at least having sufficient for your needs. And so, the other career moves that I made since that time have all worked out, and we're certainly not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. But other than our house, we have no debt, and we make more money than we spend. And that's really a goal, I think, that we've had for years. And we feel like we're as rich as we need to be because we don't want for anything. And like I say, it's like the old saying, income $3, expenses $4, misery. Expenses $3, income $3, expenses $2, happiness. It's just one of those kind of things that sometimes it takes people a long time to learn that lesson. And it seems like it's kind of rubbed off on you a little bit.
Well, yeah, actually, so the boys were interviewing us the other day about what we learned from our parents. I think it was on Knox's birthday. They were interviewing us about what we wanted to pass on from our parents to Knox. And the two things that I mentioned to them, one was that I wouldn't say that I picked up the ability to be good with money, because I'm not still, I don't like keep like a balance sheet or anything like that, but I didn't have a credit card until I was over 30 years old. Until 2015, I never had a credit card, and it was because you guys had taught us not to live off of credit and how that's bad. It can be bad, and people go over the top. And then the other thing that I told them that I learned from you guys was you guys were always very good, and I don't remember if this happened before we had those issues, but it definitely happened after, where you always made sure to show us how much less other people had than we did. I specifically remember giving toys around Christmas time to a battered women's shelter. I specifically remember whenever we would go, even like on a trip to Mexico or something, you guys would take us into the actual like towns to see where the real, like away from the resorts, to see where people lived. I remember going to, what was that older widow lady's name where we put up her Christmas tree?
Walquist.
Yeah, Sister Walquist's house, and put up her Christmas tree to show, like, you know, some of these older people are lonely and alone and they need help. And yeah, so I think those were all like really good lessons that I learned. And I don't remember, I mean, I was a 12-year-old girl. I don't remember being embarrassed about moving to a smaller house. Maybe a little bit like bummed to leave my friends and stuff. But I don't remember ever being embarrassed or thought it was.
I mean, and it wasn't that much smaller of a house, the part that was finished.
It just, it looked
it was,
smaller
it
from
was
the outside.
it was older, and it
yeah.
was, but it wasn't that much smaller.
No, I still had, I mean, yeah.
You still had your own room, and
She didn't have some of the fancy loft and some of that stuff. But, Mom, when did you start working? Because you started working most of my junior high, high school, all of it you worked.
I started working when Whit was probably in kindergarten, first grade.
Okay, so when my youngest sibling, Whitney, my sister, she went to regular school, so she was there for longer hours. Where was your first job back when you started working?
The first one was I worked for Todd, right, doing flower arranging.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, in the floral shop.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for a while.
And then you worked at a different floral shop after that.
Yeah.
I'm just telling her to keep the microphone because where the camera is, you're moving it right in front of your mouth so they can't see your face.
Oh, yeah, we got to see
Keep
your face.
it about right there.
Okay.
That's good.
And then I did dog grooming for a while.
I remember that at PetSmart.
Yeah. But my degree is in psychology and social work. And so then I started working at Whitney's elementary school. Well, you were out of with special needs kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did that for just retired from that after 25 years.
Yeah, and you were at elementary schools for a while, and then the high school, and worked with the special needs kids.
And the post-high school kids, too.
Because the 6 of us weren't already enough. She needed she needed more kids to take care of.
Yeah, well, and it was great. I loved it.
Okay. What would you say was the biggest challenge having 6 kids? Like, most challenging thing about it?
The thing that I liked the least, or like
Sure.
I never liked. You'll vouch for this. I never really liked to cook that much. So meals,
I've talked about this.
Yeah, meals were real simple.
But I appreciate it because now I'm not addicted to tasty food. Food's kind of whatever.
Yeah. So that was the thing that I least liked about. I hated packing lunches.
Yeah, we had sandwiches.
I know, but I never liked that. Never liked packing lunches. Homework was hard to help with 6 kids. That was hard.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Homework, yeah, that got a little crazy.
What about you, Dad? What was the most challenging thing other than being able to hear your TV programs?
Yeah.
Just the responsibility of having to feed so many mouths and have a house that's big enough where we didn't have to sleep you in triple bunk beds like we did in our first house with Ryan and Quinn and Court were all in in the one bedroom on a triple bunk bed that had about as much clearance as sailors on a submarine. You know, you've seen those old World War II movies. Anyway, just the responsibility that I had with all those kids and trying to be a good example, I guess, while going through some of the challenges that we were and trying to keep my mind together and my temper under control, you know, and sometimes you have a bad day at work, you come home and it's kind of the old transference, I guess, where you're, you know, take it out on somebody else. But trying to keep track of everybody when we're on trips and things, like when we're piled into our van.
Did we have like a buddy system or anything,
Yeah.
or how did that work?
Not specifically that I remember.
I remember when we went to Disneyland one time seeing the dog family. Remember the dog family?
Yes.
We call it the dog family because they were literally
I
leashed
leashed
together.
Knox one time.
Yeah, but this was like 6
He's
This is
fast.
6 people walking around completely, you know, connected at the waist with these leashes that were 4 feet apart. I mean, you know, just to keep them all together. But anyway, but no, it's always been challenging but fun. Just trying to keep all the pieces moving. You know, the moving pieces together.
How?
You have to remember too that this was when, like in the summer and stuff, we'd send the kids out to play.
Yeah, we would just go and play roller hockey or whatever.
And you just go from house to house to house and in the neighborhood and eat lunch at somebody's house and come back home for dinner. It was much more open and free, and you know, it would be difficult now to keep that.
Yeah, so that's one of the questions I had. It's like later on here, but do you think that it's still feasible for people to have that many kids nowadays?
Well,
It's feasible.
Yeah.
You know, it's feasible, but it's not as politically correct, I guess, or just the way that lifestyles are these days. They tend to be, and you see that not just here in the United States, but worldwide. I mean, the number of kids is down, or even like a lot of the countries in Europe especially are in negative growth right now, except for their, you know, influx of migrants coming into their country. But no, I think that it's certainly possible, but it's not as practical as it used to be because it's just not. It's harder to cater to. When you see a family with that many kids, it seems really out of the ordinary now. But
Even in Utah, it's more like 4 now.
yeah,
Four is like the number.
3 or 4 is the norm,
Yeah.
as opposed
Yeah.
to 6. You know, which when we were.
I remember
growing up.
one of our neighbors in that neighborhood had 10.
Yeah.
The Townsends, they had 10 kids.
And so did the Ballards right next door.
They had 8, I think.
That age.
But I can't imagine having 6 kids now and trying to keep track of all of their internet, you know, Instagram, all that kind of stuff.
Not their extracurricular stuff
that
like
they can-
soccer, you know, all
just
the
wow,
things that the dance and the soccer and
so much.
all the other things that parents involve their kids in these days.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about having 6 kids? Was there a good?
No, it was just fun. It was always fun, and it was fun to see them be close, you know, and have that bond.
You'd entertain each.
They'd entertain each other, and
I mean, by
Yeah.
tying me to the goalposts in the basement.
Yeah,
Or stripping down Clay naked and making him go knock on the neighbor's door and ask for his clothes back.
yeah, there's probably
no, there's you know just entertaining each other, you know, and doing family things together, like going to, like you say, Lake Powell in the houseboat, and having all kinds of inviting another family to go down with us. They had the same number of kids. And
Oh yeah.
get to know the
Wild.
kids and doing things in the water and going fishing and
I also don't really remember us fighting with each other. I do remember like they were mean to me for sure. Like they would put my dolls in the dryer or tell me they were going to put my cat in the dryer or make fun of me or try to light my Barbies on fire. I remember only one specific fist fight between Ryan Quinn behind the couch one day. But other than that, and even as adults, we don't really fight with each other. I've seen some families that fight with each other, like as adults won't even speak to each other because they're pissed at their brother or whatever. Do you guys think that you did something? Or could you give advice to people for creating that? Or do you think it just kind of happened? Because we never saw you fight, or I always wonder about that. Because we don't really argue with each other. We all get along with each other very well.
I wonder about it too, because I mean, I don't think that we did anything out of the ordinary to keep that from happening. It kind of amazed me when people would say, "Oh, my kids fight nonstop and they're always hitting and
Yeah, we never did that.
what wrestling with each other." And I don't know. I couldn't say why that happened. Just lucky, I guess.
I think a lot of it was just the fact that you guys got to know each other, so you were so close that you learned how to get along, together, and because there were times that we didn't have a lot, we learned how to kind of pull together in tough times, as opposed to getting overly greedy because we had so much.
Yep. So a couple of the people on Instagram asked some questions specifically because you guys have been married for so long. They wanted to know. So I don't know if you have answers for these or not.
Oh, boy.
Or if you were just so busy taking care of the kids that you couldn't really think about it. They all want, how did you keep your relationship good while taking care of all those kids, basically? There's like 17 different versions of that question.
I guess it helps to marry somebody you really love to start with. Somebody that you're not just enamored with.
I mean, besides the legs.
But just having respect and also appreciating the fact that every once in a while we need to get away. I mean, we'd get away and we'd try to go on a date night once a week.
Did you? I don't remember that.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We didn't always do it, but
What kind
like on a
of- where
Friday
would you
night,
go?
we'd just go to maybe a dinner and dinner like, and I'm talking dinner, going to D's Hamburgers where we couldn't afford it. And so we'd bring our own cheese because just cheeseburger was 15 cents more than
Really?
a hamburger. And so we'd bring our own cheese. There were times when we did that.
That was when Ryan was a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, like that was when it was new.
When
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
married, but
Yeah.
things like that.
And then go to the dollar show or the 50-cent movie, to a movie or something.
And you guys did that even like all the way through when you had all of us?
I think we tried to.
Pretty
Yeah,
regularly
we did
anyways?
quite
I
regularly.
don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember being babysat here and there, but not.
No, it's never, at least in my mind, it's never even entered my mind to end our relationship or get a divorce or even separate or anything like that. I had the ability, I guess, from time to time, because I've always liked to play golf, is if I ever got real frustrated about something, I'd go hit a bucket of golf balls,
What did you do? Clean the windows?
What did I do? Clean? Really clean? Yeah. Like Julian? Sweep?
Yeah, Julian likes to
Sweet.
clean when he's stressed out.
She'd clean the toilet with my toothbrush.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you think, I think part of the problem nowadays is that because of social media and stuff, people only see happy pictures of people, and they think that just because their life is maybe in an unhappy stage that they think that they're supposed to be happy all the time, and then it should be easier because it looks like everybody else is having just like an easy, great time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like maybe back then, do you feel like people didn't talk about it as much? Like, oh, how's your marriage going? You just kind of did it?
Yeah, no, that's totally true. We didn't talk about it that much, and so it was just commitment, You're committed to this person, and there's going to be ups and downs, and you just get through them, and it's just the commitment.
And I think
But,
that's a big difference today. As we were talking about that earlier. If you had a broken TV in those days, you'd go get it fixed.
Mm-hmm.
You take it to a TV repair shop. Today, you break your TV,
you
you
just throw it away.
throw it in the garbage. I mean, we live in a disposable society, and I think that's transferred over to individuals as well, where if somebody gets in a situation that's not comfortable, instead of trying to work it out, they'll look for an escape.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really unfortunate that that's the case, because there's a lot of great relationships that would have continued had it just been for the ability to work through one particular problem. But pride gets in the way, and just the fact that you feel like you're not comfortable, so you want to move to a more comfortable place as opposed to working it out.
And you just have to learn to ride out the low times, even if they last for a while. You just, have hope that it'll get better, and it usually does. And just, yeah.
When he was all stressed out going through trying to figure out how he was going to make money to take care of our family, what kind of stuff would you say to him? Were you like supportive? Because
I don't know, was I?
She was
what would
always
she say?
supportive. I mean, you know, it's hard for me even to joke about this because I can't or I won't just because she was always supportive. She never got mad at me. She never said, "Get out the door, you bum, and go make some money." I mean, you know, none of that kind of stuff. She knew I was working as hard as I could, but she was always supportive right through the hardest times. It was just one of those situations that I'm very grateful for because it never made me feel like it was they were the family was blaming me or she was blaming me at all for what was going on, but only supporting me, knowing that we would get through it.
Yeah, and I never heard her ever say anything negative to us or anyone about that situation.
No.
So,
Let me see here. Oh, somebody asked and they were like, I hope this isn't too personal. It's personal about me, not about you guys. So because I got a divorce, this person is recently going through a divorce or something. How did you guys feel about me doing that? They wanted to know.
go ahead.
Just speak about, yeah.
That was hard. No, it was very difficult, and we didn't know about it for.
Because I know you guys really like Tyson, and everybody. I've
Yeah.
never said anything bad about him or.
No.
Well, you know, there's certain relationships, to be frank with you, I'm glad you got out of.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I mean, your first marriage, I should say. I'm still scratching my head as to how you two ever got together, but, and you know, some of the other relationships that you were in, I could see that it was, at least because looking at another guy, a guy looking at a guy looks at differently than a girl looks at a guy sometimes, and I could just see it was a dead end street. It looked like a dead end street to me, and I was thinking.
I don't even know if it was more like a bike path.
Do you remember that your brothers all took bets on how long that would last?
I didn't know.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that was
Yeah.
happening. No.
Yeah.
Well,
they did.
it's kind of like Lori or Miranda's first marriage.
Well, so I don't
remember
think
what I said?
I've
Do you
never
remember what I
spoken
said?
about this.
Maybe we're
I don't even think Nelson knows what we're talking about. When I was 19, I got married and was married to somebody for 6 months, and then had that annulled because it was.
Well, do you
I didn't
remember
know
what
him
I
at
said
all.
at your wedding when I got up and spoke as the the bride's father?
No, I was probably.
You're probably enamored, but
No, I don't know if
No,
enamored is the word.
there was.
What have I done?
I made a statement where I said, I just hope that this marriage lasts longer than what it takes me to pay off the cost of this wedding.
I don't think that it did.
That's what I said, and I was joking, but deep inside I was being more serious. That, you know, everybody laughed, but I was deep down inside I was dead serious.
So so in Utah, everybody, all the girls, at least maybe it's not this way now, but when I was in high school and just out of high school, it was still the thing to get married when you were like 19 years old.
19 or 20. Yeah.
So yeah, but let's talk about the actual one, the real,
Yeah.
the more recent one, the
Okay.
Tyson.
Which one?
Like, were you upset? Were you think that I was making a mistake? Or, I mean,
Oh.
I know that
Okay.
we were
Oh,
raised
sorry
not
about
to really believe in getting a divorce and stuff like that too. So,
Well, it was just hard because there wasn't anything obvious that, from what we could see, that what's happening? Why is this happening? Because you guys were, really good to each other and really caring, and so it was hard to understand why it happened, and it was sad because we love Tyson, and so.
Yeah, but life is looking backward so that you can make better decisions moving forward, and now that where you are, I can see purpose to all this. I can see sometimes the relationship that you have and again, I'm making some assumptions because I don't know everything that you and Julian go through, but the fact that you have found each other is a very good match. Even though you're both type A personalities, you know when to roll with the punches a little bit. You're not going to be, butting heads to the point where you're going to just explode or die. At least that's my perception. And I've gotten to know Julian a lot better just on this trip, spending a little bit of time with him here and there. And I don't know of any of my in-laws that I love as much as I love Julian.
Hopefully they don't listen this far into this podcast.
Yeah, they'll be asleep
Cam's
by this
gonna
point.
be real mad.
Your in-laws are all awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. But I'm just thinking, I don't know of anyone that I love more, even though I probably know him the least.
So take it back to be completely honest. When I showed up with Julian that night at Quinn, and Quinn was like singing at the sandwich shop, and I rolled in with Julian, you guys met him for the first time. What did you think of him?
I thought he was hot. And I didn't realize that he was that much younger than you. I thought that you looked, you were closer to the same age. So that was kind of a fun surprise.
Okay.
No,
what did you think about it when you found out he was that much younger than me?
Well, it didn't upset me. I mean, I just was kind of surprised.
Did you think he was like a rebound?
No, not really. You're not a rebound type person.
That's right.
You don't know. You're not.
That's right.
You wouldn't have jumped into something just to jump. Yeah.
What did you think? Because you're going to be a little more
You know,
protective than thinking he's hot.
I'm trying to remember. I remember the situation because Quinn was playing at that place, right?
The sandwich place. Moe's?
Yeah, wherever it was. But I don't remember specifically, other than just wanting to get to know him more and hoping that if it was something that you were going to make it more of a permanent situation, that you'd be happy. That's really where I was coming from. I mean, I've learned in my life not to be as judgmental as I probably was when I was younger, and just trying to figure out what's going to make you happy and what's going to make you. I just hope it's going to be a situation where you're going to be able to get fulfilled in the way you need to be fulfilled. So.
All right.
I also thought that you would make really cute babies.
Well,
I was right about that. Yeah.
Okay, I have some final questions, but you have to answer them in one sentence or one. We'll keep them short. So I'm gonna say the name of one of your children. I'm gonna go in order from Rye down to Wit. Describe each of you, this person in one word. Maybe not as an adult, more as what you remember of them as a kid, or just who they are as people.
Ryan?
Okay, so
Go ahead.
Ryan first. One word.
This is hard. One word.
I can think of one.
Can you think of one?
He's
Go.
got one. Maybe that'll help you.
Yeah.
Intense.
I mean, he always does do everything over the top.
He is
He's
very
like
intense.
sleeping in a hammock in the backyard.
Yep. I would say adventurous.
Okay. Quinn.
I got one for him. Caring.
Mm-hmm.
Very caring.
Forgiving.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. Oh. Okay, Court.
Can I say he's an excellent dad?
Yeah.
Awesome dad.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah, really good dad. Mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of the word. It's in my mind what he is, but he is very low key.
He's super chill.
Yeah, he doesn't ever get upset. He just very calm.
Okay, we're gonna skip me.
Okay.
Clay.
Clay is just a sweetheart.
Sensitive. I was
He's
sensitive.
sensitive. He's sensitive and a sweetheart. Yeah, he is.
Happy.
Happy.
Yeah, he's funny,
Funny.
Yeah.
hilarious, but he's really shy. So you got to know him first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Wit.
Wit is snarky.
Mean.
Snarky. That's the word for her.
Sarcastic.
Yep. Wit works for street parking, and we call her the bouncer because she kicks people out of Instagram if they quit. She loves it. So I skipped over me because people were asking what I was like as a kid. Keep it short, but explain how I was growing up.
She always very precocious, always had to have a lot of things going on, a lot of extracurricular activities, theater and acting and all kinds of things like that. Really excellent student, very focused student. Yep.
And Mom and I have talked about this quite a bit, and not just now, but even when you were young. You were never a baby. You were born mature.
Yep.
You've always had that look in your eye like you knew what was going on well beyond your years, and you were old beyond your years. So far as knowledge, wisdom, abilities, you were always you were never young. You were always a mature person in a young body.
I feel like with Julian and I, that might be what makes us work because I feel like he's always been young. I think he was like, he's still a little kid.
Yeah. Also very sensitive, very emotional. Sorry you get that from me. Oops.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Good sense of humor, though. She likes to have fun. Always into fun things. Crazy, wild ideas. She's always thinking of new things.
Yeah, like what are some of the, I remember I would try to gather the neighborhood kids and we'd put on a play randomly and I would make them practice in the basement, or I was trying to build haunted houses when I was in like 4th grade and charge people to come to it.
Yep. Very creative. Right.
The other thing, though, that really sticks out in my mind, and I see this still today, and you probably get this from both of us because we're both kind of this way, is that you're an outward in type of person. You're not inward out where you're trying to push yourself on other people. You're sensitive to what their needs are and then trying to bring that inward to yourself and then reflect that back out again. You're the type of person that is not like even something like street parking. Your focus is always on your members. You know, I read your posts. I read all the posts that come in, and when they're talking about you or Julian or what you've done or what you've accomplished and how much people appreciate it, I can see, yeah, and it's not a means to an end for both either her or Julian. It's an end in and of itself, which has become something very beneficial for you as well. But it's only because you care so much about your members that your members care so much about you, and it's a reflection of how you feel about them is why you have such high retention.
Yeah, we do care a lot about them.
Yep. True.
Maybe that's because I had a big family, so
Maybe. Well,
gotta take care of each other.
You've got an even bigger family now, a whole street parking family.
How would you describe Knox in one word?
He's just a hoot. He's a character. He's just fun. He's just a precocious, bright, fun little boy.
Yeah, I would say I was watching him at his swimming lessons today, and he's cautious a little bit. I mean, he's even though he tries
watches.
everything, he does everything. He's an observer, and he'll reflect exactly what he sees, but he's still not quite sure he wants to stand up and jump in the water.
No,
yet.
he doesn't. Yeah, he's still thinking about it.
I mean, he's still thinking about it, and that's good for a little kid because they're not as likely to get themselves into a difficult, dangerous situation.
Yeah, he's funny, huh?
He's a
he's a
great
delight.
little boy.
Fun little boy.
Okay, last one. One of the questions was, what's a one-liner for anyone trying to have a good marriage and raise kids? One piece of advice from each of you.
Flexible.
Be flexible. Okay. What's yours, Mom?
I'm going to say 4 things. Trust, commitment, a lot of tolerance and grace, and a really good sense of humor helps.
All right. See, you didn't even cry that much.
No.
We're done.
Okay.
Okay.
But I like the one where she said commitment. You know,
Yeah.
That's the first one.
it's a matter of being willing to stick it out regardless of what happens. Make good decisions to start with. Don't if you're in a bad situation and you can see no end to it, you've got to escape. But make a good decision to begin with, and once you've made that decision, then don't let speed bumps disrupt you. If you come to a cliff, you've got to make a decision. You're either going to jump or you're going to go around it. But commitment is something that I think defines our relationship.
Especially now that you've got a baby, kids involved.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Love you.
Love
too.
you.